Pour yourself a glass of mulled wine, put the Christmas tunes on, and settle down to making your own Christmas door wreath. Join in with friends either at home or online. You're unpacking the box and there's everything in there you need. The only thing you will need is a pair of scissors, and if you've got sensitive hands, then perhaps a pair of gloves. So the best way to do it is to lay out all the materials onto the table. There's lots of lovely scented aromatic foliage and the lotus seed heads, preserved fruits which smell delicious, and obviously Christmas cones. Sliced fruits, and then we've got some lovely cinnamon, baby cones, and some chilies, great for a bit of colour, and a couple of Christmas baubles. This is a real wire that you're going to use to attach all the moss and the foliage, and there's a couple of meters of ribbon for you to make a bow, good solid 12-inch ring, and some lovely green luscious moss, and this is a blue pine. Attach the wire onto the frame, give it a couple of twists round just to secure it, to make sure it's really safe. And then take the moss and make it into little sausage shapes and place it onto the ring and bind around. Doesn't matter if you go clockwise or anti-clockwise, makes no difference. You know, sometimes it just depends on if you're left or right-handed. So take little clumps of moss, butt them up against each other, and then take the wire around. So every little bundle has 2 or 3 wraps around, and you just keep going all the way until the whole thing is covered. The moss is quite moist. If it dries out a bit, then you can just spray it with some water, and this really helps the foliage to last a lot longer. And now this is the blue pine, and it's lovely foliage, and the best way to attach it is to take the small pieces and put it at like a 45-degree angle either side of the ring. Just continue all the way around until you get a really good foil of foliage. You can go out into the garden and pick some extra twigs or some ivy maybe, or some foliage that you might have in the garden that you really like. And you know, you can make yours even more unique then, or make it a little bit bigger or a bit wilder. There's a selection of foliage including box and eucalyptus in the box, and I just tend to add it in as I go around in between the pine, but of course you can group it together if you wish. This is eucalyptus, and it dries out really well, and that's something that you could keep for next year. When I take my wreaths apart, I keep all the cones and seed heads and anything that's dried that looks decent. Dry it out properly, put it in a box, and then you can keep it for next year. And now I've got a little bit of rosemary, again for scent. And if you're doing lamb at Christmas, you might be going to your door wreath and taking a little bit off to use in your cooking. Little bits of holly. You have to have holly at Christmas, and if you may have some mistletoe growing in the garden on a tree, you can add that into it. And just keep going all the way around with all the different foliages. I prefer making wreaths onto moss because you can keep them moister and they'll last much longer than anything else, because you can water the moss all the foliage then will last well into the end of January, February if you want to keep it on the door for the winter. You don't have to have it just for Christmas. There's more than enough, plenty of foliage to go all the way around. Just pack it in nice and tight so that you make a really good solid base. If you don't pull the wire hard enough, then the foliage can fall out, especially as it dries out a little bit. It'll get a bit looser in there, so make sure you pull it quite tight. And you don't see the wire at all because the foliage has covered all the wire. And then to finish it off, just loop the wire around and place it through, and then pull it tight, and then you've got a really secure covering then. So that's the base finished with all the different foliages. Everyone's going to look a little bit different. And then the ribbon that came on the box, use that to make a tie to hang it up on your door. And then now you just get onto the decorating, and this is literally however you would like it to be. There's no set pattern about it at all. Just add the cinnamon and the chilies and all the fruit into the wreath all the way around. You can group them together if you want to, or spread them out singly. And you can see I'm popping the wire right through the moss and then returning it into the moss so that it doesn't damage yourself and obviously the door that you're putting it onto. Because you've used moss on the wreath, you don't really need to back it with plastic or anything like that, because it's not going to damage your door. When you've got your wreath on the door, I would spray it with water, perhaps, every couple of days. Depending on if you're in a windy spot, sometimes they dry out quicker. But if it's on the outside of the door, it'll stay perfectly fine for a good few months. But if you want it to last that extra bit longer, just give the foliage and the wreath frame spray with water every couple of days. It'll look perfect. So it's really coming together now. We've got lots of lovely fruits. These fruits have been preserved. They really last outside or inside in your wreath. Want to wire the fruit, just take the wire through the fruit and then twist. And add a couple of baubles for a bit of glitz, just to brighten it up in the bronze colour. Could be red, could be silver, whatever colours you have. It's really coming together now. You can see how the foliage is a real great background for all the other bits and bobs. And these are lotus seed heads. They come from the Japanese water plant and they're dried. And you can spray them with gold or silver if you want to, or even snow. And they give a little bit of a dramatic look to the arrangement. And then after Christmas, I'd keep all the materials of the fruits. You can keep it, if they're a bit moist, just dry them out in the oven a little bit. And then the ribbon, you pinch it together and make a figure of 8. And keep pinching into the centre. You can do 2 loops or 4, it depends, you know, whatever you wish. But if you did 2 loops, you could leave the tails and then they would hang down. So you've got plenty of space for that. And then pop the wire over the centre and twist at the back. And then you've got a lovely bow and you can just pop that onto the top of the wreath or the bottom, whichever you wish. And it just finishes it off. If you choose the luxury package, please refer to the leaflet included, which gives you everything you need to know how to look after and arrange the flowers in your wreath. So there we are, there's the wreath. All you need to do now is have a glass of mulled wine and hang it on the door and have a happy Christmas.